2007, the High Court in London identified 9 errors in Al Gore's movie An Inconvenient Truth. This video identifies those 9 and another 26. Gore says that a sea level rise of up to 6 metres will be caused by melting of either West Antarctica or Greenland. Though Gore does not say that the sea level rise will occur in the near future, the judge found that in the context it was clear that this is what he had meant. According to calculations based on figures in the IPCC's 2007 report, these two ice sheets between them will add a little over 6 centimetres to sea level. Gore has exaggerated the official sea level estimate by almost 100 times. Gore says low-lying inhabited Pacific coral atolls are already being inundated because of human-caused global warming, leading to the evacuation of several island populations to New Zealand. To date, there has been no evacuations of populations of islanders as suggested by Gore. The tide gauges of the National Tidal Facility of Australia show a mean annual sea level rise over the past half-century equivalent to the thickness of a human hair. In the Maldives, a study showed that sea levels were unchanged today compared with 1,250 years ago. A well-established tree very close to the Maldivian shoreline and only inches above the sea level were recently uprooted by Australian environmentalists anxious to destroy this visible proof that sea level cannot have risen very far. Gore says global warming may shut down the thermohaline circulation in the oceans, plunging Europe into an ice age. It will not. Indications of a sustained thermohaline circulation weakening are not seen during the last few decades. Instead, a strengthening since the 1980s is observed. Gore says that in each of the last 4 interglacial warm periods, it was changes in carbon dioxide concentration that caused changes in temperature. It was the other way around. Changes in temperature preceded changes in the carbon dioxide concentration by between 800 and 2,800 years, as scientific papers, including the paper in which Gore's film had relied, had made clear. Gore says global warming has been melting the snows of Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa. It is not. The melting of the Furtwängler Glacier at the summit of the mountain began 125 years ago. More of the glacier had melted before Hemingway wrote The Snows of Mount Kilimanjaro in 1936 than afterward. Temperature at the summit never rises above freezing and is at an average of -7 Celsius. The cause of the melting is long-term climate shifts exacerbated by regional deforestation and has nothing to do with global warming. Since the temperature at the summit of Kilimanjaro remains below freezing and has not risen in 30 years, global warming is not exacerbating the stresses at the summit of Kilimanjaro. Gore says global warming dried up Lake Chad in Africa. It did not. Over-extraction of water and changing agricultural patterns dried the lake, which is also dry in 8,500 BC, 5,500 BC, 1,000 BC and 100 BC. Gore says Hurricane Katrina that devastated New Orleans in 2005 was caused by global warming. It was not. It was caused by the failure of Gore's party to heed 30 years of warnings by the Corps of Engineers that the levees, the dams that kept New Orleans dry, could not stand a direct hit by a hurricane. Katrina was only Category 3 when it struck the levees. They failed as the engineers had said they would. Gore's party, not global warming, was to blame for the consequent death and destruction. Gore says a scientific study shows that polar bears are being killed swimming long distances to find ice that has melted away because of global warming. They are not. The study mentioned just 4 dead bears. They had died in an exceptional storm with high winds and waves in the Beaufort Sea. The amount of sea ice in the Beaufort Sea has grown over the past 30 years. A report for Worldwide Fund for Nature shows that polar bears have grown in number where temperature has increased and have become fewer where temperature has fallen. Polar bears survived the last interglacial period when global temperature was 5 degrees Celsius warmer than the present, and there was probably no Arctic ice cap at all. The real threat to polar bears is not global warming, but hunting. In 1940, there were just 5,000 polar bears. Now that hunting is controlled, there are 25,000. Gore says coral reefs are bleaching because of global warming. They are not. There was some bleaching in 1998, but this was caused by the exceptional El Nino southern oscillation that year. Two similar severe El Ninos over the past 250 years also caused extensive bleaching. Global warming has nothing to do with it. Gore implies that the difference of just 100 parts per million in carbon dioxide concentration between an interglacial temperature maximum and an ice age temperature minimum causes a difference between a nice day and having a mile of ice above your head. It does not. Gore's implication overstates the mainstream estimate of the effect at least tenfold. In effect, Gore is saying that 100 parts per million increase can cause a temperature increase of up to 12 degrees Celsius. However, the IPCC view is that the same increase of carbon dioxide would increase temperatures less than 1.2 degrees. Gore says that Hurricane Catarina, the only hurricane ever to strike the coast of Brazil, was caused by global warming. It was not. In 2004, sea surface temperatures were cooler than normal, not warmer. But air temperatures were the coldest in 25 years. The air was so much colder than the water that it caused a heat flux from the water to the air, similar to that which fuels hurricanes in warm seas. Gore says that 2004 set a new record for the number of typhoons striking Japan. It did not. The trend in the number of typhoons and of tropical cyclones has fallen throughout the past 50 years. The trend in rainfall from cyclones has also fallen, and there's been no trend in monsoon rainfall. Gore says scientists have been giving warnings that hurricanes will get stronger because of global warming. They will not. Over the past 50 years, there's been no change in the strength of hurricanes, even though hydrocarbon use went up sixfold in the same period. Gore says insurance losses arising from large storms and other extreme weather events are increasing by implication because of global warming, but they are not. Insured losses as a percentage of the population of coastal areas in the path of hurricanes were lower in 2005 than they'd been in 1925. In 2006, a very quiet hurricane season, Lloyd's of London posted their biggest ever profit, £3.6 billion. Gore says flooding in Mumbai is increasing, by implication because of global warming. It is not. Rainfall trends in the two major weather stations in Mumbai show no increase in heavy rainfall over the past 48 years. Gore says that 2004 set an all-time record for tornadoes in the US. While more tornadoes are being reported because detection systems are better than they were, the number of severe tornadoes has been falling for more than 50 years. Gore says that the ice melt allows the sun to heat the Arctic Ocean, and a diagram shows the sun's rays heating it directly. It does not. The ocean emits radiant energy at the moment of absorption and would freeze if there was no atmosphere. It is the atmosphere, not the sun, that warms the ocean. Also, Gore's diagram confuses the troposphere with the ionosphere, and he makes a number of other areas indicating that he does not understand the elementary physics of radiative transfer. Gore says 40% of the world's population get their water supply from Himalayan glacial meltwaters that are failing because of global warming. They don't, and they are not. The water comes almost entirely from snowmelt, not from ice melt. Over the past 40 years, there's been no decline in the amount of snowmelt in Eurasia. Gore says that a Peruvian glacier is less extensive now than it was in the 1940s, implying that global warming is the cause. It is not. Except for the very highest peaks, the normal state of the Peruvian Cordilleras has been ice-free throughout most of the past 10,000 years.